The wind blew hard across the big open cargo yard. It was so strong, it made the metal sheets flap like they were alive. They clinked loudly as they swung from old rusty chains. Around the yard, broken forklifts stood still, like old robot skeletons waiting in the mist. It was just past midnight, the kind of time when everything feels quiet, strange, and like a dream. Jason Statham stood right in the middle of the yard. He wore heavy steel-toe boots and a bright vest, though the vest was dirty and greasy from work. In his left hand, he held a metal thermos with coffee inside. His job that night was supposed to be easy: take the stuff off the truck, count everything, and stay out of trouble. But trouble had other plans. From the edge of the yard, 4 black motorcycles rolled in. They were super quiet, like sneaky animals in the fog. The bikes didn't have their lights on. The engines made soft whispering sounds as they came closer. Then they stopped. No one said anything. No one made a sound. One man got off a motorcycle and started walking forward. He was tall and calm. His hair was tied back in a neat braid. He didn't wear sleeves even though it was cold. On his arms were tattoos of dragons and strange writing. He had scars too, the kind you only get in real fights. His eyes looked around until they landed on Jason Statham. The other bikers stayed back. This wasn't going to be a big fight with everyone. It was a challenge, just between 2 people. Jason Statham slowly set down his thermos. He wasn't scared. He didn't move quickly or nervously. He just placed it down like it was a normal day. He stared at the man as he came closer. The man stopped 5 steps away and lifted one hand. His fingers were open, his wrist relaxed. It was a fighting pose from a special martial art called Northern Shaolin. It's a style that uses smooth, fast moves and smart strikes. Jason Statham didn't copy the pose. He didn't raise his fists. He just took 1 step forward. That was all. Suddenly, the man spun and threw a palm strike toward Jason's head. But Jason ducked. He moved so smoothly that the wind from the hit just passed over him. His foot pivoted on the ground, and he stood ready again. The man smiled a little. He was just testing Jason. Over near the loading dock, 2 workers were watching. One dropped a wrench in surprise. The way the 2 men moved looked too fast to be random, too sharp to just practice. The workers stepped back into the shadows. They didn't want to get in the way. The next attack came. The man swung his leg low to try to knock Jason down. But Jason didn't run or jump away. Instead, he leaned into it and let the kick slide across his leg. It hurt, but he didn't stop. Right away, Jason moved his weight and dropped his elbow toward the man's chest. But the man dodged. Not because Jason was slow, but because the man was really fast. He wasn't just pretending to know how to fight. He was good. Really good. Now they both knew this wasn't going to be easy. They paused, reset, stood still like statues, and then it began again. Fast. 1 strike, then a block. An elbow came, then a finger jab toward the throat, but Jason stopped it by rolling his shoulder. Jason dashed behind a rusty forklift. He picked up a broken side mirror and used it like a spy tool, watching the man in the reflection instead of directly. This confused the attacker. He wasn't used to fighting someone who didn't play by the usual rules. From the shadows, the other bikers started recording the fight with phones. One whispered in Mandarin. Their faces looked unsure. They had been told Jason was just a worker, a British guy who hit hard. They didn't expect someone who could fight like this. Someone who used fancy footwork and didn't panic. Jason Statham stood still now. Not moving. Just watching. Waiting. The quiet around him felt loud, like a storm about to start. Inside the little office nearby, a man named Ray poured coffee into an old mug. He was the manager. When he looked out the window, he saw the shapes moving in the fog. He didn't step outside. He just sipped his coffee. Jason had only been working there for 3 weeks. Didn't talk much. Took night shifts. Helped others. But Ray had noticed something in the way Jason moved, even when sweeping the floor. Like he used energy carefully, like every step mattered. Now Ray understood why. Back in the yard, the attacker changed his stance. He stood wider, knees bent, fists spinning in circles. This was a different fighting style now. Southern style, built for strong hits and standing firm. He rushed at Jason. Jason didn't run. He stepped right into it. Their bodies hit together, bam. Elbows, knees, slams. Jason rolled backward from the hit, then flipped back up like a cat. He kicked his legs out in a spin and knocked the man down onto the ground. But Jason didn't hit him again. He waited. Fighting, for Jason, wasn't just about winning. It was about respect. He let the man stand. The man wiped some blood from his lip and smiled. Not mean, just curious. Like he was starting to understand Jason better. Just then, the fog moved, and something big appeared. A huge blue container marked 416 pounds. That was the delivery Jason was supposed to check. But the door of the container was open. Behind it, hiding, was another person, not one of the bikers. This person was wearing normal clothes and holding a crowbar and a phone. He was a thief. Jason saw him. So did the martial artist. For the first time, the two fighters looked at each other, not as enemies, but as people with the same goal. Jason stepped to the left. The other man stepped to the right. Two paths. One target. The thief tried to run. Too slow. Jason's boot hit the thief's knee. The crowbar fell. The phone broke. The thief slid across the ground, coughing. The martial artist walked up and took something small from the thief's pocket, a flash drive, with strange red writing on it. He looked at Jason and nodded, not saying, "Thank you," but more like saying, "I see you." Then he turned, bowed once, and left. Jason didn't watch him go. He picked up his thermos. His gloves were dusty. His vest was ripped. His arm had blood on it. But his face was calm, like nothing had changed. Ray stepped outside, holding his coffee. He didn't ask questions. Just said, "Shipment looks good." Jason nodded. Another night shift done. Another quiet battle no one would ever know about. People thought working a simple job meant living a quiet life. But Jason had never traded danger for peace. He just knew how to hide the danger better. The yard was silent again. Too silent. Jason stood alone. The fog had swallowed the other fighter. He walked back to the blue container. The lock was broken. The seal was split. The thief's phone buzzed once, then died. Jason didn't speak. He crouched and checked the boxes inside. Wooden crates. Still there. He smelled grease, wires, and oil. Just parts. Nothing super special. But it wasn't about the boxes. It was about the flash drive the other man had taken. That flash drive had writing from the Chinese government. Military stuff. This wasn't about stolen parts. This was a trap. Someone had used Jason's job to send a secret message. And Jason had walked right into it. 30 minutes later, Jason sat in the back room of a quiet diner by the highway. He still wore his work clothes. He opened an old laptop and put in a small USB. The screen turned on. A map of Europe appeared. Dots showed secret security groups moving through docks. They weren't official. They weren't legal. But they were real. In one corner of the screen was a name. Victor Halden. Jason remembered that name. So did his fists. Halden used to run a bad mercenary group in Romania. Then he disappeared 5 years ago. If Halden was involved, that meant the martial artist wasn't just doing his own thing. He was sent. 10 miles away, in a tall building near a frozen canal, the same martial artist stood at a big window. He was shirtless, wrapping his hurt ribs with cloth. Behind him, a man in a fancy suit walked back and forth. It was Halden. He looked calm, clean, like a businessman. But his eyes noticed the bruises on the martial artist's body. He wasn't happy. "You said he was just a dock worker," Halden said. The martial artist didn't answer. But he remembered. He remembered Jason Statham. And now, Jason Statham knew the game had just begun. The way Jason Statham moved was different. He didn't follow the normal way people fight. He used mirrors and surprise. He didn't even finish the fight when he had the chance. Jason Statham wasn't just someone you used to trick others. He was a real danger. Back at the diner, Jason Statham closed his laptop. The place was empty now. Only the cook was left, watching him through a little window between the kitchen and the tables. The cook looked like he wanted to ask something, but didn't. Jason Statham stood up, picked up his thermos, and left. Snow was falling again, but under the cold, something was burning. At 4:15 a.m., Jason Statham went back to the dockyard. The big shipping container had been closed and put back like nothing had happened. But someone had left something on his time card. It was a small piece of a biker's jacket, folded into a neat square. It had the same dragon symbol as the tattoos on the arms of the man he had fought. Jason picked it up, smelled it once, and walked past all the boxes and crates into the security office. He checked the video cameras, but the footage was gone. 4 hours were missing. Someone had deleted everything. But Jason knew where to go next. A basement gym downtown. There were no signs outside, just a big iron door with rusty bolts. Jason knocked once. No one answered, so he walked in anyway. Inside it was hot and sweaty. People were training, falling on mats, lifting weights. This wasn't a place for talking. It was a place where you showed your strength. In the back, a man Jason knew nodded. They didn't say names. Jason gave him the biker patch. The man frowned and pointed to one word written on a chalkboard near the weights. Mondo Slow Blade. That name meant something. It was one of the oldest secret fighting groups in Europe. They didn't start fights. They ended them, quietly. Jason had beaten one of their top fighters. Now, they saw him as a problem. Meanwhile, in a dark room filled with glowing computer screens, a man named Halden was watching videos from different harbors. Hamburg, Genoa, Marseille. He had files open with 7 names. 6 were crossed out. Only one name was left. Jason Statham. Halden looked closely at the videos. One showed Jason in military clothes. Another showed him years later during a rescue mission. Halden leaned closer. He hadn't expected Jason to be this calm. The fighter Jason had beaten wasn't just strong, he was trained. But Jason didn't panic. He didn't fight with anger. He broke the fight down piece by piece and let the fighter go. Halden understood what that meant. Jason wasn't just sending a message. He was raising the stakes. This wasn't over. By 8 a.m., Jason was back at work at the warehouse. He moved pallets and loaded crates like everything was normal. But his eyes kept checking rooftops, glass reflections, even tiny shakes in the ground. He was calm, like a man who had seen war and stayed silent about it. The fight wasn't over. It hadn't even started. That first fight? It was just the beginning. And now, Jason didn't care about the flash drive anymore. Now it was about something more important. His peace, his job, his life. And someone had touched it. Across the street, inside a plain-looking van, the martial artist from before sat alone. He had no earpiece, no phone. He wasn't waiting to fight. He was waiting to understand something. Why didn't Jason finish the fight? Why did he let him walk away? Now Jason stood in front of the warehouse like nothing had happened the night before. The martial artist watching from the rooftop finally understood. Jason wasn't here for revenge. He was here for answers. And someone would give them, whether they wanted to or not. It began quietly. Jason stood at the edge of the dockyard. His right hand touched a steel beam. His left held his thermos, like it was just another regular day. But the shadows around him began to move. A black SUV pulled up. No headlights. The tires made a soft sound on the gravel. 3 men got out. They moved smoothly and quietly. They weren't from around here. One held a big duffel bag. Another touched the microphone on his neck. The third man was older. He didn't carry anything, but you could tell he was the boss. They didn't see a warehouse worker. They saw a loose end. And loose ends don't get to walk away. On the rooftop, the martial artist kept watching. He wasn't here to help Jason. He was here to see what made Jason different. Why didn't he fight back that night? The 3 men started getting ready. The man in charge pointed to the duffel. One of them opened it. Inside were tools, not for fixing things but for hurting people. Wires. Sharp blades. A small torch. It was the kind of kit people used to make others talk. Jason didn't run. He took a slow sip from his thermos and stayed quiet. Then, he stepped forward. The men started to spread out. Jason didn't raise his fists. He didn't say anything. He just stood there. The martial artist on the roof narrowed his eyes. He had seen great fighters freeze before. But Jason was different. Jason was calm. Too calm. The first man rushed forward with a stun stick. Jason stepped a little to the side. The stick missed. Jason used the man's speed against him and threw him into a pile of wooden pallets. The second man tried to grab his gun, but too slow. Jason stepped in fast and smashed the man's hand against a metal container. The man fell, holding his hand and groaning. The third man didn't move. He just watched. Jason looked at him. Not with hate. Just calm awareness. He knew this man. The martial artist on the rooftop tensed. He recognized that third man too. He had fought in wars, in Yemen, Belgrade, and even a secret prison camp. He wasn't just a helper. He was Holden's cleaner. The man they sent to fix the final problem. Jason didn't move toward him. He just stood still. The third man raised a hand. A signal. But nothing happened. Because the martial artist had already done something. He had dropped from the rooftop, slashed the SUV's tires, and disappeared again. He wasn't here to save Jason. He was here to learn. Now the third man stepped forward alone. He pulled out a knife, not a regular one, but a special one. It was his family's blade, old and sharp. Jason nodded slightly, like he understood its meaning. Then he took one step forward. He had no weapon, no help, just himself. The blade came fast. A straight slice down. Jason moved sideways and used a broken metal rod to block it. Sparks flew. Another slice. This time across. Jason ducked, turned, and lifted his knee, but stopped just before it hit. The cleaner could feel how close it was. That pause broke his rhythm. From above, the martial artist leaned forward. His eyes were wide. Now he understood. Jason didn't hold back because he was afraid. He didn't finish fights because he didn't need to. He already knew. Suddenly, a spotlight on the warehouse turned on. Someone had turned it on from inside. The light fell right on Jason. Behind him, the two hurt men lay groaning. The third man, the cleaner, dropped his knife. Not because he was scared, but because he understood. Jason had already won. Jason didn't smile. He didn't say anything. He just stood there. The cleaner turned and walked away. From the rooftop, the martial artist had vanished too. But when Jason walked back to the time card box, his card was missing. Instead, there was a red envelope. Inside, a folded paper with one word, respect. By morning, the dockyard looked normal again. Forklifts beeped. Radios made static noises. The boss yelled about broken boxes. Jason stood by the guard shack, sipping from his thermos. But something had changed. People walked differently around him now. Slower. Calmer. Even the ones who hadn't seen the fight could feel it. The air was different. 10 blocks away, in a martial arts school with bamboo fences and red banners, the young fighter stood on a wooden floor. His teacher gave him a small photo. Jason Statham, smiling softly. No background. Just his face. The teacher said nothing. He didn't have to. The student bowed. He folded the photo carefully and put it into his bag. The lesson had already been taught, and now it will live on. That afternoon, Jason finished his work shift like always. He locked the last container and walked to the edge of the dock, near the water. A delivery driver waved at him. Jason lifted his thermos in a small wave. Then he sat on a wooden beam near the foggy water. The sky was gray. The wind was cold. But Jason had found peace. Even in a world full of danger, blades, and silence, Jason Statham stayed in the shadows. Not because he was hiding, but because the most dangerous man is sometimes the one who's just trying to be left alone. If you enjoyed this story, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing from you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the next thrilling adventure or mysterious twist. Thanks so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Until then, stay curious and keep exploring.